Hello, everyone. This is the captain, Trav Carruthers, and the coach, James McCracken, back with you again today in episode number 2 on our series. And today we're going to be focusing on strategy. So, Trav, firstly, good to have you back.
Yeah, great to be back. I'm really excited about this one. It's actually really good timing. I'm off to Vietnam at the end of the month for the AFG Strategics Conference. For those of you who don't know, it's 40 of the big businesses within AFG. It's my third year going. I've been on invite the last couple. I'm probably not quite big enough to be there just yet, but I'm getting pretty close. So I'm really excited to unpick some strategy because one of the key takeaways I've got from these conferences is the big boys, they just operate at a different level. So really excited to chat about this because I've seen some of the way the big dogs work, and it's going to be exciting.
Awesome. So, when you say that you're on the invite list, does that mean like you're carrying the drinks? You're the 12th man, as to use a bit of a metaphor here?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't put this in a public forum because I don't know if you know Chris Slater. He's roused me a couple of times. There's been a few events I've been to over the last few years where when people talk, I'm the guy that sneaks in through the back door. I'm the 18th man. Talking about being in a room where you're around smart people. I'm the one that snuck in through the back door sometimes, and I've made mention of that before. And Slats loves to rouse me on that because he says I deserve to be there. But this is got an invite a couple of years ago and kept getting invited back, so it's really good. There's some of the best performers in our industry at this event, and very big couple of days, very heavy. Yeah, and it's all based, it's strategics, right? So it's all based around strategy. We're not talking lender selection, we're not talking policy, we're talking high level strategy. So a lot of the stuff we will talk about today, I'd love to claim it as my own, but I've probably stolen it from some of these high performers at these events that I've been to be
From many
honest.
of your peers, yeah.
Yeah.
And so let's get into the meat and potatoes here of this. So, yes, AFG do this event that you're calling strategics, and obviously other aggregators will do a version of something in order to provide value for their high performers as well. From your view or from your perspective, when you think about strategy, what are some of the components of strategy, or what are some of the things that come to mind in order to take it from a word into something that's a bit more tangible or actionable?
I think probably the big one is for me when I'm speaking to brokers, I'm like, what's your strategy in there? Let me think about it. If you can't elevate a pitch or strategy right then and there, your strategy needs work. You should be able to be very clear. If you turned around to me and said, Trav, outline your current strategy to me in under a minute, I could pretty clearly outline what my current strategy is. And the thing is, it's going to evolve over time. I seek a lot of advice from a lot of different people. I have people I speak to about culture. I have people I speak to about process. I have people I speak to about marketing. Depends on what I'm looking at. So I
Yep.
take my advice from a lot of different sources, and off the back of that, I evolve my strategy. But at any time, I can pretty much rattle off what my current strategy is. Yeah, without even really thinking about it. So I would challenge if our listeners can't rattle off their strategy, if they can't elevate a pitch their strategy now, the strategies require some pretty significant work to get it.
Nice. So, for the benefit of the audience, let me just put you on the spot here and ask you, would you mind just giving us the version of what your business strategy is?
Okay, so my current strategy, it's all around EBIT, right? So I'm trying to grow the business, but one of the things that I noticed when we're talking about strategics, they know their metrics. These guys, they know their numbers. So the way it's explained to me by a good mate of mine, Zach, I said no last names, probably one of the smartest people I've met in this industry. Unbelievable. Like his brain just works differently. When I tell him when he dies, we're gonna cut him up and study his brain because there's something about this guy, right? So he's the one that taught me like building all these spreadsheets. I've got a spreadsheet that's like 15 pages long, and I've built all the formulas, and I can put in data, and I can see what it spits out, and it's around. He calls it pulling levers, so it's around pulling levers and seeing which lever. If I pull on this lever, what
Yep.
happens? Oh,
Yep.
I didn't really get the required response there. Push that lever back, pull on this lever, and it's around knowing your numbers. So for me at the moment, EBIT's a thing. EBIT's a strong focus for me. So it's around making sure that the business is growing and the profit margins are growing. There are times when the EBIT's going to come down because I need to invest heavily in the business, which I've done done so in the last couple of years. I'd invest heavy in the business, profitability would reduce.
Yep.
Now we're taking a benefit, right? So looking at my strategy moving forward, it's around increasing my EBIT. It's around taking my contractor model to market. So we're currently 3 brokers, soon to be 4 there. The
Yep.
goal is to get to 12 in the next 3 years. Just to give you guys a little bit of insight, we don't take on any brokers that are writing less than 30, trying to transition them to 50 plus.
Yep.
So the strategy is around improving the client experience, reducing the cost base, increasing bums on seat with high performers,
Yep.
and taking our number. We want settlements to be at $1 billion a year. We want Virtus to be writing $1 billion a year,
Yep.
amongst our group, but doing it profitably. So
Nice.
around those, you'll hear me talk later on about some vanity metrics, and it's not about having bums on seats or writing big numbers if you're making no money. So our strategy is low cost base, great client experience, a lot of talent, and very profitable model.
Nice. I'm glad you elaborated on those things because my initial thought when you started saying EBIT was like, well, EBIT's not a strategy on its own. That's an outcome and it's a byproduct of the components that help deliver that result. And so I'm glad you've talked about, the team, the business model, definitely part of a strategy. The client experience, clearly part of it. And then, of course, to deliver that client experience relates partly to tech and team, amongst other things, but that would certainly be key components of delivering a great user experience, which obviously helps and amplify the likelihood of getting repeat and referral business.
I'll just ask you quickly, James. So obviously you work with a lot of coaches, work with a lot of business owners. So when they're coming to you, are you finding that they've got a very clear strategy, or is it something that when you come and you're doing essentially your discovery meetings or your discovery calls with these brokers, you're going, okay, look, it's very evident there's no strategy here, or the strategy isn't clear, and is that something that is a focus for you as a coach?
Well, it's an observation and probably more than a focus. So the short answer is very few people who I engage with have initially got a strategy. I don't think I've ever had someone literally give me a strategy document and say, this is the essence of where we're going and how I plan to get there. And then I need your help to provide guidance, feedback, insight, etc. So I don't think I've ever experienced that. I don't think I've seen many people have a clearly articulated strategy at all. What I have seen is people will have a loose version of an aspiration or an intent, and maybe have a plan, maybe. And so but most times the plans are usually old and may have dust on them, or if they're inside a drawer, well, they probably won't have dust, but they haven't been looked at or reviewed in a long time. Bearing in mind that a plan is more of the how-to guide in order to deliver on the strategy. The strategy is, as you were saying before, a little bit more high level in terms of outcome orientation and key pillars that are going to influence the performance of the organization over a period of, say, 3 to 5 years. So no, the short answer, no, I don't see it very often. My gut feeling would be that the companies who do have them are doing quite well.
You make a really good point there. I like when you talk about these documents that are gathering dust in a drawer somewhere. One of the things that I would challenge our listeners to think about is I consider them living documents. So your strategy is a living organism within your business. It's always evolving. It's always changing. There are market factors. There are factors in your business. There's insights from experts like yourself where you'll reset some beliefs, and those conversations that you and I've had that have changed the course of my business in certain aspects. And those are the things, right? So it's about keeping it current and about continually evolving it, I think is probably a good point that you make there.
Can I maybe have a look at that from a different perspective? My view would be you don't want to be changing your strategy frequently, but you may change the means to get to the outcomes that the strategy is designed to achieve. So regularly, organizations will have an articulated strategy. It's often a 3 to 5 year thing. They won't change the strategy particularly frequently, but they may change components that help deliver the outcomes because they notice that the marketplace doesn't have an appetite for this, or people are going to gravitate towards a particular set of skills, or whichever the case is. So they might make shorter term decisions that are certainly evolving, but the strategy, in my observations, tends to be a little bit more set in stone, but the way that they execute on that is a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. You've articulated it so much better than what I did. I literally sat down probably 2 days ago and looked at I do a bit of journaling, and part of my journaling was talking about the business, and I looked at where I wanted the business to be in 5 years. So I know what the strategy is for that 5 year plan, and it's now around like I've got a obviously there are milestones I need to meet, and there are certain actions I need to take to accomplish that. Like you said, they will adjust over time. You actually bring up a good point. I
So
spent a
let's just look at that. Sorry, I'll just jump in. Right, you're not going to all of a sudden next week wake up and go, you know what? I don't like this contractor model anymore. I'm going to go to salaried staff members. And by the way, as we know, that'll probably be a talking point on its own around the different business models. But you're not going to just automatically change your business model because of a whimsical thing. You're certainly not going to be just changing your customer experience on a whimsical or for just irrational reasons. So those are going to be core parts that are almost set in stone, that are the backbone of helping you get to where you want to be in the 3 to 5 year period. But what you might do is look at, well, maybe you could evolve. And again, I'm just using an example here. You probably wouldn't actually do this, but let's just say that the splits that you offer under your structure might evolve, or the utilization of tech that helps enhance the user experience might evolve. So those parts are a bit more dynamic, but the core concept of delivering a referable, efficient user experience is not going to change.
exactly. I'll give you a really good example from my time in the police. I spent a few years in the Whitsunday Water Police. Great place. Didn't do too much work up there, but it was beautiful, right? And part of our role, we need to bring some of the big boats back to Brisbane. So, like, we're talking 3 or 4 days, right, to sail from Whitsundays to Brisbane.
So it was meant to be 3 or 4 days, and somehow it took you a month.
Yeah, it took us a little bit longer. We come back with a lot of fish and a few crabs and whatever else. So yeah, it was good times, right? But back to your point. So I would plot out tracks to navigate our way to Brisbane, right? And so it's on the plotter, and we've got wind, and we've got swells, and we've got tides, and a whole heap of other outside factors pushing on the boat and moving the boat in different directions. And if we're not constantly course correcting, we're going to miss Brisbane by 100 miles. So you articulated it so much better than what I did. You've got that true north, or your North Star, or whatever you want to call it, right? You know where that's where you want to be, and it's not a straight line from point A to point B. So you're right. The strategy remains the same. It's the execution and the little course corrections along the way that is going to keep you on track and keep you honest, and keep making sure that you're focused and you're shifting that needle, and you're pushing the business, you're propelling the business in the right direction. So yeah, really, really, really good point there.
I also like the metaphor there as well, because if that strategy is to get us or get this fleet of ships to Brisbane safely with the fish still frozen, well, that's the outcome, right? That's what you want to achieve, and that's not negotiable. But if part of the safety is that you need to oscillate between different currents and avoid weather conditions, etc., well, that part's certainly very flexible in order to remain on track in more the esoteric sense, because you may need to literally go in a different direction in order to achieve the outcome, which is the safety part. Because if you're not safe, then well, I mean, you can take risks, but yeah, there's different ways to approach the execution.
Yeah, and it goes even further with that analogy. Like you see some of these top performers, like we'll go seek shelter when the weather comes in. We might duck in behind an island, or we'll get somewhere safe, right? And it's no different in business, right? Like you see, what I mean, like there were some really big opportunities that come out of COVID, right? No one knew what was going to go on, and some people executed really well, and some people exited the industry, and Royal Commission, some people were packing up and exiting the industry, and like look how we came through that. Like there's always going to be these outside factors, these yeah, I mean there's mines everywhere, right? And you just got to navigate your way through, and it's just about doing it safely, and being able to be flexible and being able to pivot and move when you need to.
And I think the same thing applies when the broker's working with a client. I certainly know some brokers who essentially they will, if they don't say this, they'll certainly be thinking that if this consumer isn't interested in a loan strategy and getting some advice as to how to better improve their circumstances, well, that's okay. They're not a client for me. Happily go down the road and just do a transactional deal. That's fine. I'd rather build my business around people that do value strategy, do value advice. And again, that's a positioning thing. And I know people that do that. They do that extremely well and they're very successful. And but there's different strategies, of course, for different people in different circumstances. And I think sometimes people confuse structure with strategy, because structure is a means to help facilitate an outcome as opposed to being the outcome. But I'm just curious, what's your view around loan strategy? Is that a term that you use, or is it something that's used in the Virtus team or amongst other brokers you hang out with?
It's probably the cornerstone of Vertis, to be completely honest. So I'm pushing my guys. So early in my career, I was at transactional broker. I just wanted to get the deal done. I wanted to get paid. I wanted to move on, right? And then you'd look like it was early on, so we weren't measuring runoff. It wasn't even I didn't know my numbers back then. But it was we created this Vertis avatar, like the avatar of what a Vertis client looks like. And our Vertis client is purchasing a first property, looking to build a portfolio of five, or refi equity release, whatever the case may be, but it's all around strategy. This is what we do. And every single one of my clients, whether they want it or not, they get a strategy meeting, 45-minute strategy teams meeting. We provide a strategy report. I go through it page by page, whether they want it or not. So it's all around providing value. It's making sure that I can confirm that I've got the strategy right. It's around, and it's funny how many clients you'll find that they don't want it, then they do it, and they're very impressed. And they're like, oh, hang on a minute. The amount of times of our clients coming to me wanting to buy a property, we go through the strategy report and they're like, when can I buy my second? And I'm like, you can buy your second now. And all of a sudden they're building a portfolio. They never, because they don't know what they don't know. So yeah, the strategy, you're right. This is where we bring value. This is our unique value proposition at Vertis. And that's the type of client we're looking for.
Nicely said. And that's an example of how to define at least a part of a strategy, is having clarity on the types of people you want to provide service to, and then the means to which to actually fulfill that service.
Definitely.
I like it. So I'm conscious that strategy could be a multi podcast session. Is there anything that we haven't uncovered today that you think our audience might be interested in hearing at this point?
No, I think we're probably, as I said, the plan for this was an overriding around strategy. I think we can tie down on particular strategies, and we can niche down a little bit, which I think will provide some value. But this is sort of an overriding expose of what we're going to look at, what the thought process is, so people can get a lens on when we do further podcasts. I think we've touched on everything we need to here, so that's great.
Sweet. All right. Well, that being the case, we will bring this episode to a close. So, as always, team, if you've got different views, different perspectives, if you like what we've said, if you've disagreed with what we've said, absolutely share your perspective. It's the opportunity for us to continue evolving, making sure that what we're sharing is hopefully valuable and usable for you. So it can assist you again from an insights perspective, from a tangible perspective around applying this knowledge to give you some energy, to give you some clarity, to give you some confidence to take that next step in your journey, whether you're doing 2 mil a month, doing 10 mil, or if you're already shooting the lights out and you want to refine and maybe get off the tools. I'm sure we'll cover all of the above in due course. And again, we welcome your feedback and thoughts to assist you on that journey. All right, team. So we've just realized there's a couple of add-ons or addendums or additional insights that we want to share in order to provide a bit more value for you. So, Trav, I'm going to handball over to you because I think there's a couple of things that you would like to, some nuggets to give to our audience.
Yeah, so these are just some key insights I'd just like our audience to sort of go away and think about and start challenging themselves on. So I think you should always be thinking about you should always be thinking about your strategy. Like you mentioned, you shouldn't be constantly adjusting and tweaking and switching strategy. It's just going to get disjointed. But you need to be thinking about these things, because if you're not thinking about it, you're not evolving it. There's not a one size fits all strategy. I find that a lot of brokers will go, well, I disagree with you, Trav, that won't work. I'm doing this. And I'm like, well, maybe what I'm doing will work, and maybe what you're doing will work. It's not necessarily one size fits all. And I've seen some strategies, some really, really successful strategies that I would never want to do myself. It's not a fit for me. It's not a fit for Vertis. So we wouldn't go and execute on that. But nonetheless, it is a very successful strategy in its own right.
Can I just touch on that one,
Yep.
if that's okay? I 100% agree. There's no one client that we work with that would have even remotely close to the same strategy. And I'd be really concerned if they came to me and said, I've seen this other company do this, I want to do this too. That to me would be a red flag. What I'd be more interested in someone saying is, I see how they do this. I'd be interested in these components or looking at how some components of what they do could complement this part of what we already do. So whether that's to do with a remuneration structure, whether it's to do with utilization of a piece of tech to complement their deliverables. But yeah, essentially, I think I've said this before, is trying to adopt someone else's strategy is a bit like trying to put on someone else's underwear. You know, it might sort of feel kinky for a short period of time, but after a while, it just starts to feel weird and just won't work in most cases. So
I love that analogy.
anyway,
That's
yeah,
a good one. That's a, that's interesting. I never thought of it like that, but yeah, it's accurate, and it's very yeah, it's, very interesting. But yeah, nah, it's yeah, and I guess that's where it's like one thing that's helped me formulate my strategy is getting feedback from a lot of different sources while I'm trying to build it, right? So I've got, as I said, I've been very fortunate. I'm surrounded by some pretty talented people. The circles that I travel in would generally be, I would say they would be generally more successful, more experienced business operators and business owners than myself. So when they talk, I listen, and I'm pretty open about what my plans are, about where I'm seeing success and where I'm not. And probably where I focus on, this is one of the things with, if they tell me that I'm doing something great and I'm killing it, it sort of just goes over my head. It doesn't even really register. I'm not interested. When they go, hang on a minute, Trav, I'm going to pull you up on here. I think you're wrong. I like laser in and focus. I'm like, what am I doing? Challenge me, like, and it's funny how like just resetting your beliefs and trying to get that right. And I'll give you a great example of where I didn't listen and massive mistake. So when we're launching the contractor model. I speak to Craig Vaughan a lot. Craig Vaughan's probably one of my closest friends in the industry. Very, very smart man, mad scientist. He's yeah, what he's done with Brokerage is amazing, and I hope he's enjoying retirement or semi-retirement now. But we were chatting, and he said, Trav, just be careful. I understand what you're doing with this contractor model, and I think it's got legs, but your business is only a few years old, and like, don't get me wrong, we have a great book to lean on, but it's not massive. Like, it's a very strong book, but he said be careful, because taking your eye off the ball and focusing over here can impact your numbers. And I just shut off the cuff. I said, don't worry, Craig, I've got this under control. We've got it dialed. I know what I'm doing here. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't, and my numbers suffered, and I needed to make some pretty big changes in the business to return the business back to those profit margins, which in my opinion were healthy. So, and now we've just onboarded a couple of new brokers recently, and it's done the same thing. It didn't have as much of an impact as it did last time. I am getting better at it. I am by no means good at it. The onboarding process, I try and make sure the onboarding process of my brokers is so smooth, but now, because it takes me away from my core business,
yep,
it's one of those things, right? And I wasn't focusing on that, and I got pulled up on it, and someone gave me the right information, but I just didn't listen.
yep.
And you know what I mean? Like, I probably left probably $50,000 worth of revenue on the table over that 6 month period, but by not listening to somebody who is widely respected within the industry. I should have listened, but I didn't. And it's a pretty that was a really key takeaway and a big learning moment for me. Big learning moment. Probably um probably the last key insight for me would be running your strategy on feel. So I feel like it's working. I feel like my strategy is working. I feel like I'm heading in the right direction. Okay, so like I said, EBIT, let's see if you're EBIT, let's see if you're volume, whatever, whatever we're looking at, you need to know your metrics. And like I said, those strategic partners in AFG, those big businesses, they know their numbers better than anyone that I've seen. And I'm working on that for myself to try and get to know my metrics intimately like they do. But it's one of those things that you can't run your business on feel. You need metrics, you need numbers. And if you don't understand, you don't know what you don't know, those are the things you need to be reaching out to your relationship manager, with your aggregator, or speaking with somebody like yourself and getting a good understanding on how you can get a grasp on your metrics. And like we said before, pulling on those levers. So that's probably my key insights and my key takeaways around what you should be looking at when we're talking about strategy.
Just a couple more quick comments there, and as relates to the feel piece and also the numbers. And again, probably another episode to evolve on this. But I think it'd be useful as well to have, again, the input of a relationship manager, partnership manager, or again, an organization like ours, insofar as a bit of feedback to know whether someone might be going for a low cost model, highly profitable, good thick profit margins, and then we look at it and go, well, that's potentially not even remotely close to what's achievable based on what we've seen work and how we've seen things structured. Again, as an example, so it's to your comment about perspective and feedback is the opportunity to get that calibration around is this in the ballpark of the outcome we're wanting to achieve, bearing in mind that there's no two models that, again, work the same. So I know some organizations that would be borderline over-resourced in terms of their people structure. So they know that they were paying on the higher end in terms of salaries, but they were really happy to do that because that accommodated the user experience, it accommodated the culture that they wanted to have. It made it easier from a mindset point of view for the business owner to know that he's always got a little bit more capacity rather than, if one or two staff members calls in sick and then all of a sudden, they're completely under the pump and, or if a couple of team members are off on annual leave that, again, someone's having to pick up the workload. So it doesn't make it right or wrong. It just means that that model worked really well in his business and he was extremely comfortable with it. Whereas someone else might say, well, we won't hire until we need to because we would rather just work ourselves to the brink and then only hire as an absolute necessity. Again, doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just means understanding what works in a particular dynamic, user experience, quality of life, money that you want to earn, etc.
No, definitely, you're right. It's leading to that one size doesn't fit all. But being honest with yourself about what model you've got. Don't think, I mean, and that's where having somebody like yourself have a look at the business from like obviously you've looked at a lot of businesses, having a different lens over it and looking, going, well, hang on a minute, Trav, I'm going to challenge you on this. You're telling me that your model is a low cost model, yet you've got 20 staff and you're writing $100 million a year. Well, that's not a low cost model. You know what I mean? Or the opposite, right? Oh no, I've got great culture. None of my team are tired. Trav, you got 10 staff and you're doing $1 billion a year. I'm pretty sure your guys are working pretty hard, right? Like they might not be telling you, but we need to look at this, right? So yeah, it's you make a really good point there, and it's around having an honest conversation with yourself and letting other people who you trust have an honest conversation with you around this.
Dude, I love that. Nice way to wrap it up. So let's put a full stop on this one, and then we'll be back with episode number 3. We're starting to look a little bit around marketing and business development. So a bit of a hot topic, and I'm sure one that will continue to be a hot topic for quite a while to come.
Perfect. Bye, guys.